First day of school. 4 years ago on this day, I wrote a poem about the falling ash, which was all that was left of what used to be the trees that line the edges of postcards, and marinated on how we operated as if business was usual while the incinerated bodies of ants piled up and built layers on the cars parked outside our classroom windows. Last year, I wrote a letter to my students that I never read, a Swiftian tongue-in-cheek piece about how we were going to have a great year. Despite me interacting with them from a glitchy box displayed upon the glowing box that would serve as their school for the unforeseeable future. Despite the fact that everyone in our attendance area lived in, at the very least, a level 1 fire evacuation zone and was watching live updates of our region's maps as the orange and red symbols kept getting closer and closer to the section of green or gray that contained our homes. Despite the realization that some of them would go the next 9 months with the 0 peer interactions during some of the most important peer interacting moments of their lives. This year, we copy-pasted protocols from the old world and typed plus masks as an addendum to the rules, and I'm trying to convince myself that going along with the plan makes me a team player and not an accomplice. I'm trying to once again recalibrate my normal. As my homie from New Orleans responds to my text and says, he's good, the storm is over, but the power might be gone a month, I'm sharpening Ticonderogas and printing labels for the cabinets. As my homie from the Midwest texts and says the air quality from the Canadian forest fires makes it so you can't hoop outside, I'm ordering new markers and pinning papers to bulletin boards. As my mom sends me a story of how my hometown school board voted to make masks mandatory, which is why people are staging protests at the local bakery, I'm rearranging my desks with a yardstick and realizing 3 feet is shorter than I thought. We're informed that it's important to keep windows open to maximize the air circulation in our classrooms in an attempt to protect us from the virus, but reminded that we can't prop the doors because we need to protect ourselves against the possibility of school shooters. Normal ain't a place you go back to. It's a label you ascribe to something to make everything feel all right. But in the week leading up to the first day of school, names get added to my roster, causing the amount of available chairs on my seating chart to dwindle until I have more pupils than places, in a time where space is a priceless resource, in a time where it could quite literally mean life or death. And people making more money than me push proposals and plan presentations that need to be fixed and improved, which is something I ain't got time to do because I've got to take apart the built-in bookshelf in hopes the counter above it can be used as 3 extra seats. And in a building down the road, decisions are made by somebody who will go through the calendar without learning a single kid's name while I'm highlighting IEPs, printing health documents, and putting together a seating chart puzzle based on that information. Which means a visceral vitriol builds within me and poisons my all right, until I'm walking up and down the empty halls at 11 p.m. the night before we officially go, yelling mantras the yoga lady on YouTube tells me every morning and arguing with motherfuckers that I wish would. But I don't know where to place my anger. Because we're subject to the rules of our admin, who is subject to the rules of the district, who is subject to the rules of the state, who is subject to the desires of a population that is trying to get back to a place that isn't a place, but rather a label we ascribe to something to make everything feel all right. It seems I have 2 options, and they're the 2 options that educators constantly face, and while what some of us choose may be noble, it may also be the reason for the stagnation of social change. We can take a stand, which means in some ways we keep passing the buck down to the kids until the predictably bad outcomes hopefully change the philosophies and ideologies of the people who strong-arm the state, which controls the districts, which mandates the admin, which requests of the teachers. Or we can be the last line of defense, a shield that stops the shit that always finds its way downhill. When the kids walk into my classroom for the first time in 18 months on the first day of school, some so visibly affected since I last saw them it makes me wince, the entirety of my rage hides somewhere within me for another day. And I help them find their spot and welcome them to the corner closet we'll call a classroom until we have to once again redefine normal, all the while wondering if I am a beacon or a blinding light.